Hi, friends, and welcome to the Be Who You Need to Be podcast, where we examine all aspects of our lives, such as family, career, and especially health. My name is Samantha Elizabeth, founder and coach at Samantha Elizabeth Coaching. I specialize in health coaching and helping people clean up their diets, increase their fitness, and change the way they think about themselves and the world around them, so they are set on a healthier path. This community is growing, and I want you to be a part of it too. I know the year plus of COVID wasn't ideal. We've all dealt with loss of some sort. Some of us, unfortunately, have dealt with some gain. And you might be feeling self-conscious or mentally stressed to think about getting back out there or even going back into the office. Maybe as your kids are heading back to school, let me help you regain your self-confidence and mental wellness back. My 360 Wellness program will help you do all that plus more. Head on over to SamanthaElizabeth.com, click on my 360 Wellness program. You'll be glad you did. You're listening to episode 4, where I have a deep conversation with my sister, Terris, about a traumatic 10 years of her life and how she overcame that to set herself on the path of being who she needed to be. I have to say that we recorded this episode with the intention of rolling this out on August 5th, the anniversary of her Independence Day, which we call Terrace Pendence Day. But life got in the way, so I'm happy to share this with you now. How do you overcome trauma and realize that it was your intended path to being who you need to be? Let's find out. Well, hello.
Hi.
Hello. How are you doing?
Okay.
No.
You don't be so awkward.
Okay. So welcome, Terris.
Hi,
My
Samantha.
sister.
Yes, your older, remember your older and wiser sister.
Older and wiser sister. That's
I mean, that whole 14 months really made a difference.
I know, right? 14
Yes,
months, it's just like,
I mean,
lived a life.
I have so much 14 months more experience than you.
That is ridiculously a long time for sure. I'm sure anybody can attest to that for sure. So welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the Be Who You Need to Be podcast. This is the 4th episode of the podcast. And I wanted to have you on the podcast because, well, geez, you have a couple of big milestones coming up in your life. And, you know, I wanted to talk to you about that.
Of the fact that I'm turning 40. Wow.
No.
All right, now we're just like, yes, I am turning 40 years old in a couple weeks. Yes. Yep.
I will join you soon after that, 14 months later. So
yes, 14 months later, you will also be 40 years old. So that's which is a very cool thing. A lot of people ask me about my sibling, and I always mention how cool it was to like grow up and have somebody that was literally always right behind me. So everything that I was experiencing, you were like right there because you're basically the same age.
Right, exactly. But like if you got into trouble, then I got into trouble.
Well, no, actually, I think that you got it easier than me because I did all the things.
So, I know we've had this conversation before, and there's certainly like you would get into trouble. Mom's like, okay, never again, Samantha. Samantha, you are not doing any of that kind of stuff. You know, I'm just like, oh, okay. So I didn't get to do anything. Okay. I feel.
Well, I'm really glad that I did all the bad things.
You did all the bad things. You did it for both of us. I was the good girl. Sure.
Mom's gonna watch this, just so you know.
I know. And she's gonna go ahead and comment on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, she's gonna be like, I can just see her clicking away.
Yes, absolutely. So this podcast is going to be released on, and I know that for podcasters, you know, they're going to be listening to on August 5th or August 6th, depending on when they get their podcast.
An interesting day. And actually, that's a good, interesting day.
Is that August a good segue?
That's a good segue. So if it was released on August 5th, that would be the 12th anniversary of me leaving the Church of Scientology.
Yeah.
And I always, I think you named it Terrace Pendence Day.
I believe Dad did, though.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
It was Dad.
So
he's
Dad
the wordsmith.
Called it Terrace Pendence Day. And I do celebrate it every year. And it's always a good time to reflect on being free, which is funny because when you and I were talking about this podcast before,
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about how I didn't want to talk about Scientology because I was like, I don't want to talk about it because it gives it more relevance. And I
Sure.
almost like most of the time I try to forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it comes up in conversation here and there, socially or professionally. Someone will say something about Scientology and I'll kind of cursorily talk about it. But most of the time I try to forget about it because at the end of the day, I try to move on and live my life. But I did really want to make sure that anyone that was going to listen to this, and you can like hashtag Scientology, so anyone who wants to learn about Scientology. I obviously was, as you know, I was in for 10 years, almost to the day.
Mm-hmm.
I spent my entire 20s in the Church of Scientology. And I think that beyond what everyone knows or reads about, from my own personal experience, I experienced pretty heavy emotional abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, and I don't think that anyone understands what the members of the church go through. And I'm not talking about like the parishioners, I'm talking about the people that work for the church.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like I said, I do try to push it down and not think about it. And I don't want to make a whole podcast about these traumatic experiences, but I do want people to know that it is, probably like many cults. There's cults all the time. And you had mentioned, even groups can become cults.
Right.
And different ways that people manipulate people and make them feel that they owe something to the group or they can't leave. And that was me for sure. I really felt like I couldn't leave.
Yeah.
Even though there's a door and I could have just walked out of it at any time. But there were so many things that were keeping me there.
Right. So,
yes.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about how you came to be a member, of the church, and, how did you get into it?
So, I got it at the right time. I say the right time, but it kind of sounds like the right time, but like the right age of 18, right when I was also just trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I just graduated high school. Obviously, I was I didn't have any like path I was going to, and I don't think any 18-year-old really knows exactly what they're going to do. And obviously I've always had this feeling of wanting to do something for the world. And I still do. And I always want to feel like I'm doing something to better people. And one of the things that the church offered me was that feeling, you're gonna save the planet. So I followed a boyfriend into the church. And, from there, it was a slow process. At first, was I a diehard Scientologist? No, I would say 3 years in, I was pretty diehard. And you probably remember, you probably had very weird conversations with me then, trying to even talk to me about normal things. I wasn't normal. I didn't live a normal life.
Right.
We were taught that, our one and only priority was the church.
Yep.
And I really believed that my one and only priority was the church. And even though it will talk about how it keeps families together and it's all about families, it was the exact opposite. It did not, church did not care if I talked to you. Church didn't care if I talked to my mom. And the church actually would do things to make sure that those things didn't happen. It was small. I got in at 18 and left almost, like I said, 10 years to the day at 28. So that's a really weird time to also be involved in something like that. I missed all my 20s. So the things that people got to experience, college, drinking, boyfriends, parties, movies, and we weren't allowed to go to the movies. We weren't allowed to watch TV. So, everyone talks about Friends. I've never seen Friends because I ever was, I mean, I've now started to watch it here and there, but I mean, there's a lot of cultural things that I missed because I was involved and kind of sequestered away from society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So what was that like in that decision, to leave? Kind of like what was going on with you during that time?
So I always say, and anyone who is ever going to listen to this will probably remember the years of 2007 to 2009. Anyone that was involved in the church right around that time, especially obviously the staff members, will know it was a pretty intense time. And I think that was what broke me finally. There were heavy punishments being levied on the staff at that time. I mean, being forced to stay up for days, manual labor, scraping out dumpsters. I mean, my favorite story is not my favorite story is one of my punishments was they took a 10-foot ladder and stuck me in the grease traps in the kitchen area. So like the big kitchen area where all the staff cooking was done. They stuck me up in the vents and I was up there for 3 hours straight, scraping grease out of them. That was like a punishment they gave me. They used to dump ice water on people's heads in the front of everybody to like embarrass them. Like I said, there's just, I mean, I don't want to even get into like the nitty gritty, but there was things that were done to me and things that I saw, and it got so bad. And there was a series of events, and one of them, as you know, I was married several times in the church. And just to touch upon that, it wasn't that I wanted to get married 3 times. It was, the rule was that you weren't allowed to do anything beyond kissing unless you were married.
Yeah.
So, obviously you're in your 20s and this is like high hormonal time. So you stick a bunch of 20-year-olds in a space and you say, you can't do anything but kiss each other unless you're married. So everyone's just getting married.
Right.
Because they want to have sex.
Yeah.
So I feel, like sometimes I don't, so I was married to my 3rd husband. I think I got married in 2007. I think it was right around there, maybe 2006.
Yeah.
And he actually left in the middle of the day. So he escaped and went on a train. And I remember they pulled me in the back and told me, and I was sleep deprived. I was not well fed. I was so exhausted because we had been up for days. And I remember them telling me that my husband had left. And I crumbled on the floor. I was so sad that he left, but I was just so tired. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was overwhelmed with emotion. And I'll never forget. And I don't want to say his name on here because it doesn't really matter. But I remember one of the security guards grabbed me by my arm and yanked me up. He said, get off the ground. And I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. And then all of a sudden I realized, he says, the favorite thing that Scientology likes to say is no case on post. So basically you're not allowed to have an emotion. If you're doing your job, you're not allowed to have an emotion. So he told me to get my shit together.
Yeah.
And I just wiped my tears and I literally went back to work. I went and did my job after I got told that my husband just left me and the church and everything. And so my whole life just got changed and I was expected to just go back to work.
Yeah. And how did that feel though?
I don't know. I guess in hindsight, but it was part of my, this is, the church is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So you were taught that person just left. They're an enemy now. So even though he was my husband yesterday, now he just left and now he's an enemy and I need to get back to work. But I think, like I said, there's a series of these events that happened before I left in 2009. And like I said, I can never say that there was one thing. It was a series of events and they were leading up. And then I remember I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And of course, when I started thinking about leaving, there was all sorts of things happening to me. I was getting in trouble more. I was getting more punishments levied on me. I mean, one of the punishments I remember is I came home after working. It was 1 a.m. We traditionally did not get home before 1 a.m. Usually it was like midnight or 1 a.m. And all of my belongings in my my place, my dorm was all boxed up and outside the door. Someone like basically just kicked me out of my space as a punishment, like packed up my belongings.
Where did they expect you to go?
I don't know. I mean, that was part of the punishment. It was like, was I going to sleep in the hallway? I guess that's what it is. So I remember at 1 a.m. I went through the boxes and found my pillow and like went back into my dorm and just fell asleep with no sheets and a blanket. I mean, but this was, like I said, you know, these were the things that they would do to you, and, you know, and you were expected just to take it. And I did take it. I take it for a long time. But when I finally decided to leave, obviously, it was extremely hard. I remember, so you were obviously part of the experience. I remember calling you and just being terrified. And I actually almost didn't do it several times. Like even when I made a call and to you, I was like, nope, I went to go drive back. I felt guilty that I did it, and I was going to drive back.
Yeah. I do remember getting some calls from you, and you seemed hesitant, you know, to talk about, you know, anything. And I'd ask you like, are you doing okay? What's going on? You're just like, oh no, just heading back to work, or, you know, doing something or whatever it was. And, you know, it always seemed like there was something a little bit more that you wanted to say, you know, and I just didn't know how to approach that with you without you thinking that I was a suppressive person, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I say this to anybody that has somebody that's in a cult experience. I mean, the best thing that you and mom ever did is just kept reminding me that you were there, and kept reminding me that, you know, like you never gave up on me, even though you had to sit there and watch me go through it. I just knew that there was a safety net. And I think that's really important for people that are trying to get out of situations, is be able to know that there's something on the other side, because that's the problem, is if you don't know there's something on the other side, then you're stuck even more, because believe me, what you're stuck in is very hard to get out of in the first place. So I think, like, I thank you that, you know, you, like I said, you and mom kept saying, you know, we're here. And in your own way. It's not like you kept saying, whenever you want to leave.
Just let us know, you know.
No, but you kept being present in my life. And I just knew that I mean, I know that when I made that call, I knew you were going to help me. Like I wasn't.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But yeah, so I didn't want to belabor too much on the abuses, but I did actually, like, the whole reason I wanted to talk about it is because I think that traumatic experiences actually can be weirdly helpful. And I say that in the weirdest way, because I don't know who I would be today if I hadn't gone through that experience. So a lot of people comment, oh, you're so, you know, you don't seem like you have a lot of fear, you know, you're always, you know, going for it. And I'm always laughing because, like, inside I have tons of fear, but I think that one of the things Scientology did teach me was to not be afraid. And, you know, mom always gets mad at me, especially when I first got out. She said that I was very mean. And I always feel kind of bad about that because I was mean, because I was taught, that was how I was taught. Like I was an executive. We were taught to have what's called ethics presence. We were taught to, you know, if somebody was a subordinate, they were expected to respect you. You were expected to talk a certain way. So I came out like kind of hardened. But I would say now that translates into me not being afraid of, you know, challenges or barriers. So like I said, I don't want to say that all traumatic experiences are good, but I glean from it something that is, I feel, is positive.
Yeah.
I try to find the positive parts of it, because not every day was terrible. It wasn't like every day I was living in hell.
Yeah.
I got to experience a lot of things that I probably, it's a unique experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very thankful. Like I said, I'm now a professional, and I didn't go to college. I don't have a college degree.
Yeah.
And I have basically my only experience is this group that taught me these skill set that I don't know where else I would have gotten it.
Yeah.
But I try to take the good parts, because some of the stuff I learned is not good.
Yeah. Not very helpful in a normal society.
No, no one has to salute
outside.
me. No, yeah, no one has to salute me out here. No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, so it's certainly, and where do you think, when do you think, I should say, that moment? Because, this podcast is about being who you need to be. So you went on your own life journey, to discover that when you were 18, you went into the church. So, at that point, did you feel like was exactly what you were supposed to do, or did you have some reservations? What was that like?
Yeah, so I mean, that's actually interesting. I think that people change. I don't know. I think we're all growing. So I don't think that's why it's unfair. I think even asking 18-year-olds now to pick a major in college, I think that's the silliest thing, because you're 18 years old. How do you even know who you want to be? Because you don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
But I do know that the church did for me is made me want to be part of something. And I still think to this day, most humans want to feel part of something. They want to feel like they're contributing. They want to feel valued. And that's what the church did to you. So it made you feel like you were contributing to this big, huge thing. And so it, like, even if you're a small little pebble, you felt part of something. So I would like to say that is not what I wanted it to be. Right. I did not want to be a Church of Scientology staff member. What I did want to be is feeling like I'm contributing and part of something. So now that's translated, obviously, like I said, in a professional environment. I run a medical practice. I do believe that I'm helping people, but I also believe that one of my purposes was also to create a family, and be a mom. And I think that that's what I've grown into, is, like I said, a mom. And I think I don't know, that's what I want to be.
Yeah. And that's absolutely wonderful. It's so funny, just to give everybody a little bit more, but growing up, Terrace was always the one that babysat all, like the kids, and me, I had wanted nothing to do with children, like whatsoever. And growing up, I became the mom until
well, that's what I remember. Sorry, I will say, when you got pregnant, I called mom and I was like, Sam's having a baby. Does she even know how to, I was like, does she even know how to take care of one? I don't even know. Yeah. So,
and I became such a mom.
You were the first one. Yeah. I mean, the fact that you were the first one to have the baby was funny.
Right. So. Absolutely. Well, good. So now you are being who you need to be. So what was that transition like, in the 12 years that you've had, from getting out of the church and kind of starting from ground zero, for yourself?
Yeah. So, like? You have to realize, I was like I had to come into society. I didn't have a checking account. I have no credit. I have nothing. So basically I'm starting at, 28 years old at zero. But I would say what happened is, obviously I had my good friend Rachel, and a couple other friends that I've made along the way, that really kind of were very patient with me. I would like to, Mom always remembers one of my favorite boyfriends, which is Michael. I really truly believe that Michael was one of the most pivotal people that I met at that time.
Yeah.
Because he really was so patient with me. I had just left the church. I was scared. I didn't know anything. And he just really like helped guide me and showed me how to be an adult.
Mm-hmm.
You know, help me. He went and helped me open up a checking account. He got me a cell phone. He, you know, like he did all these things with me. And he also helped me open my eyes to the church, because if you remember when I first left the church, I wasn't an anti-Scientologist. I actually still considered myself a Scientologist.
Yeah.
And I was very upset for anyone who was talking down about Scientology.
Right.
I still felt that I was not going to be a staff member, but I was still going to be a Scientologist. And Michael is the one that really opened my eyes. I mean, I've never seen anything anti-Scientology in my life. And he was like, you got to see some things. Have you watched some of these videos? Yeah. So like I said, but everything's a process. So I think, you know, as you and I are raising daughters, it'll be interesting to see them transform. But I really do feel like maybe some of these formative things happen in people's 20s. Unfortunately, they happen in my 30s.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, you probably grew into yourself a little bit earlier than I did, which is, you know, because I was still flopping around and trying to figure things out still.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've had to grow up really fast, you know, in your 20s. You took on a lot of responsibility in the church. And, you know, for me, I think I was still flopping around myself, you know, in my 20s. I think every single day now, I feel like I'm becoming more and more myself. But there is definitely a lot of times, you know, back and forth and not knowing, you know, what's going on or what I was going to do with my career or anything like that. So certainly, and I think that, you know, as I'm getting closer to my 40s, I'm really feeling, you know, this, that I feel like I'm on the right path. And, you know, what about you? Do you feel like you're on the right path? I think we've finally arrived here together, actually.
I know, which is kind of, yeah, I would say that, like, I mean, I think for the first time, like I am doing something professionally that I feel really confident in. Like I feel that, like I feel very like confident in something. I feel professional in it. Like it's and I feel really good about that. And it took years of other training. I mean, I'm running a medical practice. I have no medical training. I've never been to medical school. I've never taken any administrative schooling.
Yeah.
But I had to learn and be guided. So I really feel, like I said, I'm stepping into my 40s, and you know, I told Stephen, like, this is my career. Like, this is what I will be doing in my adult years. Like, I don't see myself changing, even though like my dream is to open a gym, but that's just that's my dream. I think I'm gonna do that when I'm like retired. I'll open up a gym, but
that sounds like fun. Let's do that together.
Yeah, I still, you know, but Stephen always reminds me, those make very much money. And I'm like, well, I know, but
but that's your passion, right? You know?
Yeah, that's what I want to do. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel at this point in my life, like, I mean, I feel like there is more growth to be done, but I feel very, and also like the other thing I want to say is like, as I've matured, like, I feel very confident as like a partner too. So, you know, like in previous relationships, there would always be this weird balance, like where I either felt like I was in charge or the other person was in charge. I felt unsure of myself. And now it's like, I don't feel that way anymore. Like I feel very in control. Like I don't, I'm not, I look at Stephen as a partner in my life, and not someone who has either control over me or I have control over him. And I'm very confident. Like I'm not worried about, you know, if he didn't come home for a couple hours, I would never, like, I just not worried about those things because he's my partner.
Yeah.
It's just different to have somebody in your life that is not, you know, where obviously previous relationships, either they were not healthy or they were toxic. And
right. That takes a lot too. And I know a lot of, you know, some clients that I work with as well too, they've gone through some, fairly traumatic things, or, they are in a situation where they are being, a little controlled. And how do you take that on and get into more of a partner, kind of situation? What would you think about that, as far as that goes? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say that I think it either comes with maturity, and then also, unfortunately, going through bad relationships. I mean, I feel bad that, we're going to have to watch our daughters do it the same thing. Unless they somehow luckily find a good one off the bat, but most of it, unfortunately, you have to experience life to be experienced.
Right, exactly.
And we're going to have to painfully watch, just like our mother had to painfully watch us.
Going, okay, you're dating that guy, huh?
Yeah.
Just like, yes, he's really good for me. I really think so.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm surprised she didn't stop us. Like, I have a feeling like going to our daughters and be like, okay, no, you're not.
I know. That's what I feel like. I'm like, I know. Maybe mom was just too nice. I don't know.
I don't know. But certainly, being in a controlling, relationship is hard on somebody, because I'm sure, just like when you were in the church too, there was a lot of things that you didn't see or want to see, in that. And I know with people going through relationships, there's some things that they feel are normal, or that are normal in that situation. And when they get out of it, all of a sudden they realize, okay, that was not normal, or I kind of knew it was not normal, but I didn't really see like how abnormal it was.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about being in controlling environments. And like I said, that's obviously what I learned from the church is when you're in it, you can't see anything. And people like you and mom would try to talk to me, and I thought that you guys were out of your minds. Which is funny because I was the one that was out of my mind. But I thought you guys were out of your minds.
But the thing is that we loved you very much, and we knew that you were making the best choice for yourself at that time, that you wanted to make, right? Because it's your life. And it was certainly, one of those things. I don't know if you ever wish that we would have stopped you and said, no, but, or if you feel like you had, to go through that, as weird as it was.
No, and I never want you or mom to ever feel guilt that you didn't come rip me out, physically rip me out, because
we tried once.
I know, but I don't want you to feel bad that you didn't succeed in that, because in truth, I don't know, I probably would have just ran right back.
Yeah.
And I feel bad. I had to go through my own process, and I had to go through and see things for myself, and also become older too. Once you start, getting older and you can see things, and and it's just unfortunate. I just think about all the people that are still there, and I just cry thinking about oh my God, I can't believe they're still there. Still going through this.
Yeah. And I think that, when we look at those kind of things and we try to figure out, have you ever thought about trying to help other people, get out? Or
yeah, I know. And I feel, no, I know. Now you made me feel really guilty.
And I'm sorry.
I do. I thought about that. So one of the things that, you and other people helped me is you have to remember, I had $2 to my name when I came out. I had no resume. So because my whole 20s were inside the church. So I think I wanted to start a group to be able to provide services for people that left, because basically you're left with nothing. You don't know anything.
Right.
And if you don't have a support system, they were left behind. Even people jobs. How do you get a job?
Yeah.
I'm almost 30 years old, and I've never had a job. So, or, except for my high school job. So I, didn't know how to interview. I didn't know how to do anything. So, but I will say, Sam, I did have that purpose, and maybe now talking about it, maybe I should go back to doing that. I was thinking Scientologists love to donate. you know, maybe starting a donation fund, you know, for people that need, you know, like that don't have financial resources. I mean, like I said, I mean, you don't have any money, like you don't have anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I know, you
Well,
know, I know,
Sam.
I know in high school, taboo, I was in psychology and I really, you know, dug it. And I really, like when I went into college, you know, I was a psychology major to begin with. But the reason why is because when I was in junior high, I went through a rebellious phase and I turned around and realized, you know, that was unnecessary angst that I went through as a teenager. And I always thought, I'm going to go back one day and I'm going to help others get through that weird part of your life. And that's what I really wanted to do. So I can definitely see that pull, you know, of wanting to help other people too, because you know, you went through it, right? And you know how you victoriously, you know, got out of it. And I mean, and being able to get through it, meaning that like you are a functionally, you know, person, you know, now in a good relationship, you know, with children and everything. You can see that, you know, that struggle perhaps, you know, of that from people.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe this was eye opening. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe.
I feel like we just did some coaching here.
Yeah, no, I mean,
a little bit. Didn't mean to. It's a podcast, but you know, a little coaching podcast.
Well, I always try to figure. I mean, I always try to think of. I mean, I do feel. I don't know. I feel bad for everyone that has to leave. But okay. But good, Sam. I will think about that one. I'll see with all my free time. I'll see if I can also.
I know you have no free time with managing. Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, my free time is like first thing in the morning before the kids wake up and before, you know, the day starts. It's just my only time. So
yeah, right. Exactly. Whenever I take on something new, I'm kind of thinking, okay, when can I fit that in? And it is about priorities, right? And you know, figuring
100%.
out what are the priorities and, you know, doing that. I know that you also work out, you know, a lot as well too, or, you know, keep up on that workout regimen too.
Well, that's what I mean. I always say to people that, you know, say they don't have time to work out. That's not true. You do have time. It's just you do other things with your time.
Right. Right.
You know, unfortunately, that might mean that I lose, you know, a little half an hour sleep in the morning. But okay, so I decided to use my half an hour sleep instead of, you know, there's always time. But I will say, my plug for working out has always been, it's actually my therapy. And it really is truly the place that I feel like I actually become a better, you know, better mom, a better worker, a better wife, because I need that space to be with myself, you know, and have endorphins. And I always go running. I don't run with any music. It's my purposely so I can have quiet time with myself.
I love that.
And just giving my own space, like, and I can, you know, I work through problems all the time. I think about things at work that I'm trying to figure out, and I go for a run and I think of the solution. So but yeah, no, I don't need to talk about all my workouts, but I will say that it's part of my life and it makes me happy, and I do it enough that you know, and like I said, I still very much running around chasing my 2 children, and you know, but I think it's a good example for them too. Like I want them to see like being healthy is important, and you know,
that's good. Yeah. Well, you were definitely a great role model for them. Hard worker, good mom. Thanks. You know, good to yourself as well too.
Yeah.
Just be better to yourself always.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think this is a great podcast. I know. I'm sure there's going to be questions, you know, from this as well too. You know, maybe we should do a follow-up podcast if there's any questions.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've never, I mean, this will be like broadcast, and whoever decides they want to listen to it, shall listen to it. But I haven't spoke about Scientology openly, except for obviously like close friends or things like that.
Yeah.
Try not to talk about it because I never really even want to be on anyone's radar or, you know, or anything. I just wanted to live my life. But I am open, to people that want to hear about more, that want to talk about their experiences or anything like that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Because
Absolutely.
obviously people that were involved didn't know what I'm talking about. It's pretty intense group to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I want to probably just encourage anybody, that has gone through, they always say that, in order to get through something, you have to basically, vet out the emotions, and, get it out there as well too. And sometimes talking about it also helps, for people. I shouldn't say sometimes, all the time, that people talk about it, people get it out there. There's a lot of things that you might think, about yourself getting out of those kind of situations, and it's not true, right? It's your own brain, but, thinking those things because you have been so controlled, during that time. But just want to tell you that you are an absolutely wonderful person. I love you very much. I'm going to cry.
Oh my God. I love you too. And I'm very excited. I mean, I'm very honored that you're my sister, and I really am actually very proud of you too. You're very, I don't know how we made it in life that we were both,
I know we really, we did a lot of things.
We didn't even touch upon the most traumatic experience that you and I experienced together. So,
right.
Dang.
We can come back and talk about that.
We can come back and talk about that. But I always say, if, he who should not be named ever would see us now, I'd be like, listen.
Look at us now.
Look at us now. Yeah. We're good.
We're awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on this podcast, and thank you for sharing your story as well too. Appreciate you. I'm giving you virtual hugs.
Okay.
Okay.
I love you.
Thank you. Love you too. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and don't forget to rate, review, and share with your friends. Thank you for listening. I hope that you're walking away with some ways that you can live your best life and being who you need to be. If you would like to work with me, head on over to SamanthaElizabeth.com to learn more about me and my coaching services. Until next time.